Hello, everybody. This is Wumble Lombardi, and this is every episode of SMG4 Season 3 Reviewed. That took a while, huh? From focusing on college classes, to just taking a break, to this season just being interesting, it's been a bit since my last review, but we're back and ready to get into reviewing things again. Today we have a total of 58 episodes. By far the longest season of SMG4, and yeah, that's the main reason why this video took so long. We'll be covering episodes number 100 to 157, from Seminar 2 to Seminar 6, which spans nearly 15 months worth of SMG4 uploads. Quick disclaimer, since this is a review of Season 3, I will be spoiling the episodes, so if you haven't seen them and want to experience them for the first time spoiler-free, go watch the episodes first. Anyways, without further hesitation, let's get to the Season 3 review. Episode 100, Seminar 2, the second compilation of random segments. Starting off with a good one here. It's much funnier than Seminar 1, which is good because that one was not super funny. I noticed a lot more voice clips here than the last one as well. We have a few longer, more substantial skits too. My favorite? The Rickroller Away. The song's a bop, so I'm not exactly in the target demographic, but you do you, MCG. Episode 101, War of the Fat Italians 2012. Mario and SMG4 get into another argument, which requires another competition. Now that I think of it a bit more, War of the Fat Italians isn't too different from Seminar. They both have clip show or compilation energy, and the main difference here being Fat Italians has an overarching theme of competition, and as far as I know, Seminars don't have a theme. The 2012 edition is roughly the same as in 2012, but most of the episode isn't the skit-type competition. I enjoyed the quiz show, and it actually has a reason to be there, unlike a certain other episode, but after that, the episode stops being funny. The volcano scene is a rehash of last year's ending, and the themes of friendship just feel old here. It's a meh for me. Most of the other competition parts were funny and good, but the ending kinda messed things up. Episode 102, Super Mario 64 Halloween Special 2012. Mario and SMG4 go trick-or-treating, while Starman and Toad deal with visitors. Gosh, this episode is fun. So many good jokes, plus a nice A&B plot going on. There's a good amount of suspense here too, most of it involving Starman and Toad trying to figure out what's going on with the girl in the power outage. It combines with a lot of really funny jokes to make this a good episode. Toad has to be my favorite part, as he's really into the Halloween spirit. I like that enthusiasm. This episode just has a bunch of good, spooky fun. Episode 103, Plumber Academy for Idiots. Mario and SMG4 have to go back to school after it's discovered that they skipped several years' worth of classes. Here we get another plot of Toad having some sort of power over Mario and kinda going crazy with it, this time in a school setting. It's nice to actually see Mario get into plumbing, seeing as how that career is often overlooked when talking about him. Yeah, Toad isn't really established as someone knowledgeable about plumbing in the episode, but aside from that, his presence is probably my favorite element of the story. Lots of times when we see an episode's plot be about Toad, it's more in the background, and we see more focus on what other characters do about Toad's newfound power. Not here, though. He plays a big role in the meat of the episode, aka the school scenes, and him trying to succeed in a classroom environment is nice. The climax even stems from Mario disobeying Toad's instructions about the essay, where things seem to get personal. I enjoyed this episode. It has a lot of funny jokes, and the school environment is nice. Could have spent a bit more time with the Toad-Mario dynamic, but it's still a good watch. Episode 104, Smartass Mario. SMG4 tells Mario to get smarter, but Mario ends up losing his memory. This isn't a normal amnesia episode, but it has some nice tropes. Let's call it a good episode for now. SMG4 changing his position here is kinda heartwarming, and seeing him go almost crazy in the castle scene is funny, especially considering Mario was smarter back then. Not sure why it had to be in Bowser's castle, but whatever. My big issue is the time spent trying to return this new, smarter Mario back to his original self. After SMG4 is determined to get the Mario he knows back, all that happens is Mario gets interrogated, they visit the stone, and everything is good again. Kind of underwhelming, isn't it? It's not a great episode because of that, but on that same note, it's still okay. Close to meh, but some of the jokes, like Mario's big head and that quote down there, are really good. Episode 105. Sup, bro? SMG4 finds his supposed long-lost brother, SLG4. Okay, here we go, let's do this. I don't care for this episode now. I haven't ever cared for this episode, and I probably won't care for this episode in the future. Younger me would probably point to the plot of nobody believing our main character when bad things happen to them, because it's in one of the character's interests to keep said thing around. It's the friend who's a dick to the other friend, and nobody believes it. Yeah, sure, it's a little frustrating, but it's not nearly the worst part of the episode. For starters, SLG4 just isn't that threatening of a bad guy. I assume he's under the SMG3 branch of evilness, but even as a solo bad guy, what was his plan? To wait in the dumpster for however long and befriend SMG4, and then later betray him? Was this whole idea not that high on his to-do list? How does he even know that's the store he goes to? Because if he knows SMG4's schedule, he can do a lot more than form a fake relationship with him. Speaking of SMG4, him not trusting Mario makes a bit of sense, seeing how he doesn't have a lot of sane friends here, so he wants this relationship with his brother to last. I see that. And yeah, let's not forget that SLG4 is actually his brother, which makes him being evil and whatnot all the more nonsensical, even if it's just a bit more. Anyways, back to my point. The main draw to this story is one character knowing more about someone than another character does, and here the reveal can actually feel satisfying. Except the reveal is off camera. SMG4 doesn't even acknowledge the fact that he was wrong about SLG. He just makes a comment to Mario about how he should have told him sooner, which he did. I could understand this if Mario was shown to be untrustworthy earlier in the episode, but all he is his normal Mario self, and it paints SMG4 in a dickish light. This episode has Scum 64, and while a few gags were nice, it wasn't enough to save the characters here. Episode 106, The Adventures of Mario and Luigi, Part 1. Mario and Luigi start their adventure to save Peach. Adventures of Mario and Luigi is a fun take on the normal Mario story, almost like a back-to-basics series, or arc, if you will. This episode is a good one too, as it keeps things fresh with some of the jokes, and especially the choice to have lots of voice clips. It feels much more silly than a regular SMG4 episode, and I like it. Good start to this miniseries. Episode 107, President Toad Washington. Toad wins a contest to become the Mushroom Kingdom's president for a day. At first glance, this looks like yet another episode where a character suddenly gains a lot of power and goes crazy with it, like Toad Gold. Actually, this episode has more scenes depicting Toad abusing his power than Toad Gold does, which I enjoy. Anyways, Toad's power has really gone to his head in this episode, but it works for and against itself. On one hand, it's entertaining seeing Toad have this sort of presence. When episodes focus on him, he's really memorable. However, there's a difference between funny Toad and frustrating Toad, and some stuff he does is just nonsensical. I know he's supposed to be an ass, but demolishing your home and paying no attention to the day part of President for a Day is a bit much. SMG4 and Mario have to save him too, so it's not like he's the big villain guy at all in this story. That actually brings me to my other point, the change in plot. My personal favorite part of this episode is the sheer ridiculousness of the assassination attempt, but it doesn't make for the best storytelling. The main villain isn't that convincing, only wanting to be evil because it's cool, and he actually ends up seeming kind of lame. It's interesting seeing SMG4 and Mario try to protect the guy they were originally after too, but Toad just nonchalantly says hi to SMG4 when he had him kicked out just a few scenes prior, which is just kind of stupid. It becomes almost like a sneak around the castle plot from Season 1, except with no real need to be sneaky. I'm giving this one a meh because almost all interesting elements here both help and hinder this episode. Toad's zaniness is funny, but can be out of character. The surprising plot change is neat to see, but it falls into some early SMG4 tropes. Episode 108, Christmas Thing 2012. Mario wants to be useful in the Christmas season. This is just plain annoying. The episode feels very cluttered with all these different plot points. You can make the argument that Mario is trying to be helpful in each one, but it still is a bit confusing. SMG4 losing all the decorations in the disaster, Starman wanting the others to feel Christmassy, they all seem like attempts to add a conflict to the story, but it never really feels like it. With that, and the whole episode not being super funny, I'll have to give this a scum 64. Episode 109, The Adventures of Mario and Luigi, Part 2. Mario and Luigi continue their search for the princess. We have a good continuation of the simpler SMG4 series, but with a bit more variety in the setting. I find it interesting that the Mario Brothers end up captured here, and the airship scenes are probably my favorite ones. I also enjoyed the little action scene between Bowser Jr. and Mario. It might not have been intentional, but the Dutch angles used to portray Jr. was something I didn't expect. It adds to the silliness of this miniseries. Not saying the regular series isn't already silly, but this one is just more so. Episode 110, SMG Club. SMG4 has been acting rather suspicious lately, so Mario decides to investigate. Some episodes are just better upon multiple watches, and SMG Club is one of them. Sure, you have the really cool atmosphere in the club and some of the stealth portions, but you also have some funny little lines that passed by me on my first watch through. SMG4 saying he doesn't even have a reason to leave anymore, so he just leaves. Or when he tells SMG1 that not everyone is cool. Or when he's explaining the club to Mario and Mario just falls asleep one sentence in. It's a good episode, but it still could be better. I found it interesting to not have the obvious choice of SMG3 as the villain here, but SMG1 feels a bit explainy. He works, but maybe not have him enter a dialogue with his enemy for a good chunk of the climax. As an SMG4 edition of Operation Gay, this episode works well. Episode 111, 99.5% Crazy. Mario buys a strange mushroom from a merchant. 99.5% Crazy probably has the funniest start to an episode so far. The scene with the mysterious merchant selling Mario the mushroom, combined with the first freakout segment, makes a great opening. I like how Mario is the main character responsible for his situations too. Something I would have changed is the ending though. If it stuck with the Mario gets into weird situations and somehow gets out of them sort of plot, I'd probably like this even more. However, having Mario portrayed as an actual threat to SMG4 feels forced. Mario is nonsensical throughout the entire episode, so maybe if something happens to him, he hits his head, or gets knocked out, or even eats another one of those mushrooms, this more hostile behavior could be more convincing. That's the only gripe I have with this good episode. Just on the craziness alone, I think this is a classic. Episode 112, Seminar 3. It's Seminar 3. Not a whole lot to say here. It's funny and it had a good opening skit. I liked it, and my favorite segment was probably the running restroom gag. Some other highlights were the frisbee skit and the birthday one. I spent a while transcribing the entire lyrics onto this slide. It will be noticed. Episode 113, The Adventures of Mario and Luigi, Part 3. Mario and Luigi finally find Bowser's castle, but have issues sneaking in. This seems like a good conclusion to this little series. The scenes of Mario and Luigi trying to get into the castle are funny, Bowser's interaction with his Goomba assistant are a nice break from the main story, and we get an interesting climax with the picnic. I'd say this is a good episode, and overall, this miniseries is a good one too. It's a simpler Mario story that tries something new with using a whole lot of voice clips for the main characters, and it makes for an even more silly feel than the regular episodes. Episode 114, A Lost Luigi. Luigi got lost. You know what makes this episode a good one? The fact that the focus is actually on Luigi and his little adventure. It's not about Mario trying to find him, it's about a lost Luigi. Finally, we get an episode that's supposed to feature one of the other characters, and it's actually about those characters. It's not just the plot I like, too. It's the overall feel. Luigi finds himself in all these different areas. The weird forest with the fucked up Luigi, the snowy prison, the house he wakes up in, all of it has a nice adventurous feel to it. Some of those locations can seem a bit random at times, but the variety is so nice to see. I also like the little fake-out ending where it looks like Luigi was dreaming it all, but he wasn't. On top of all that, it's funny. So far, this is one of the highlights of the season. Episode 115, Two Evil Friends. When SMG3 gets promoted to main bad guy, he and Bowser try to do evil things. Surprisingly, Two Evil Friends is funnier than I remember. The bank robbery and a lot of the scenes at Bowser's lair are so fun to watch. The focus on SMG3 and Bowser was also a nice change of character. I found it interesting that while SMG3 is the better villain, all the failures are Bowser's fault. It raises the question of why Bowser is the main villain to begin with, but he's likely more experienced and is luckier. We got another good episode on our hands. Episode 116, Like a Bowser. Bowser explains his evil stuff to an interviewer. Meh. It's fine. Not bad, but not good. It's a song parody short. What do you want me to say? It's kind of funny and the interview scenes are good, I guess. Episode 117, An SM64 Fairy Tale, Part 1. SMG4 tells the story of Mario from Glowshire and the beginning of his adventure. And here we get another miniseries in this season, this time going for a more fantasy-like setting. This first part is a good one. It's pretty funny at points. Mario's plan is one of my favorite plans of his so far, and while the simple plot has been done before, the setting and jokes are good enough for me to give it a bit of a pass.
Episode 118, How to Make Spaghetti. Microsoft Sam tries to teach Mario how to make spaghetti. And the Sam voice. So strange yet so intriguing. What a breath of fresh air to use such a voice as the centerpiece of an episode.
Okay, no more of Sam. Still, he has a point. It's a fun quirk of this episode to have this computer voice go over the entire episode. It adds to the surreality here, joined by the kitchen that's not exactly Mario's, or the idea of teaching Mario, the spaghetti fanatic, how to make the damn dish. This episode is also really funny, if nonsensical. Good episode. I love some of these weirder bits of SMG4. Episode 119, Taken Like an Idiot. Mario, in pursuit of some ice cream, gets kidnapped. We have another good episode here, but this one is a really light good. While yes, it was funny, the ending just felt sloppy. It reminds me of Season 1, where the conflict ends up being pointless, and the ending feels detached from everything else. Luigi ends up being Mario's captor, which is interesting, but then they just decide to fight to the death, and it turns out Mario didn't delete Luigi's file after all. That revelation came right after the Teletubby from earlier randomly blows everyone up. It's not super funny since it's a nonsensical scene trying to be like a climax, and it just isn't. Again, I still like this episode, but the good is a very light one. Episode 120, An SM64 Fairy Tale, Part 2. In a continuation of his journey, Mario needs help from a wizard. Part 2 is a good progression from the first. This wizard feels like he adds a bit of sense to Mario's journey, which is good, although not really unique to the series. If there's one problem I have with some of these adaptations of the SMG4 series, it's that things are played fairly straight with the main characters. We get Mario in Glowshire's version of SMG4. That's it, and I'd like a few more characters introduced. I understand this is supposed to mirror the regular series, but having just the two mainest of the main characters makes the miniseries feel less risky. Anyways, rant over, I digress. Some of my favorite parts had to do with the fight scene and the wizard's introduction. Having Link talk through his grunts and yells is a nice touch. When SMG4 adds a character that's not in the Mario 64 style, they sort of just stand there, so making Link crouch talk helps him fit into the setting. Episode 121, The Swap. SMG4 and Mario are cursed to swap bodies as SMG4 leaves for an interview. Here's a body swap episode where the body swapping is an actual conflict. The swap has some funny moments to it, but the story really is the weakest part. There's this weird attempt at SMG4 and Mario learning to not be rude to old people, but SMG4 didn't do anything. It was all Mario's fault. If this is supposed to paint both of the characters as foolish or stupid, it doesn't work well. This one is a meh, though, because the actual scenes at the office interview are nice to watch. The weird joke with Mario getting all excited, and then SMG4 after they swap was funny too, even though I wish it was a running gag. Episode 122, The Glitch. SMG4's new computer releases a glitch into the world. Hey, remember Crystal Funhouse? That more surreal SMG4 episode that took some risks with the absurdity and ended up being a solid episode? Well, this is like that episode, except it sucks. No, it's not just because the scenes in the weirder dimension are underwhelming. They were probably my favorite part of the whole episode. My issue is with literally everything else. Buckle up, folks. We got one of those kinds of Scum64 episodes. We start off promising, at the market where SMG4 is looking for a PC. We get some decent gags and an idea for what the conflict could be. When the episode returns to the castle, SMG4 tries getting his computer to work again, and is somehow surprised when his computer, that is established to not work, doesn't work. Big shocker. He finds a computer being thrown out by an old man and hooks it up. It has a virus, but somehow SMG4 doesn't know what that is. The character whose main hobby is video creation on YouTube, the stand-in for the guy making these videos, doesn't know what a virus is? If anything, having Mario fuck this up would make more sense because he always fucks things up. This just feels like SMG4 being stupid because the plot demands he is. We get a whole bunch of nothing after, where the computer room starts to look different, so Toad is sent to look at it. He's never really addressed throughout the episode, save for one line from Mario later on. He's not even the main reason why SMG4 and Mario go into the glitch realm. It's because of SMG4's computer he so desperately wants. After a time skip, SMG4 is somehow concerned over Starman finding out about this situation, which... What? Why do you want to hide this from Starman? It's not a matter of politeness because you got a different computer after he offered it to you, Glitchy. He offered you a Mac and you screamed in his fucking face and ran away. What is this recolor going to do to you? Starman, outside of this weird scene, has zero importance in the episode. He doesn't join Mario or SMG4 in the glitch dimension. He doesn't help with the glitch. He's just there. We finally get to the glitch dimension, but we're there for a few minutes, and even then the climax is pretty disappointing. It never feels like SMG4 is actually confronting the glitch. It just dies to whatever Mario found. This episode is just filler incarnate. Lots of talking about the glitch, about the computer, but not much actually happens in the glitch realm as SMG4 finds the computer relatively easy. I originally thought of giving this a meh, but it's just so boring and so meandering, I just have to rate it this way. Episode 123, Seminar 4. SMG4 celebrates 30,000 subs with another set of random skits. Another milestone, another Seminar episode. This is one of the funnier episodes of the series so far, so I think a good rating is in order. Nothing spectacular, just fine. I'm really starting to get sick of these seminars, though. Episode 124, The Wacky Wario Brothers with The Welcome Invitation. Wario and Waluigi try to sneak into the castle. This looks to be another miniseries, obviously focused on Wario and Waluigi. The two as characters are very similar, and that's fine. Both are more silly, comic relief style anti-heroes, yet some of the actions in this episode almost goes against their character. Wario should be the one thinking about how he can profit off of this castle, not Waluigi. It's a minor nitpick, but thankfully, it's my biggest problem with a solid episode. It doesn't overstay its welcome, I enjoyed the slapstick humor throughout. Good way to start off another sideshow. Episode 125, Long Jump. Mario and Luigi see who can jump further. You would think a short might not have a lot to it, but this one kind of does. The competition between Mario and Luigi is neat to see, but I like the ending more. You would think Mario's super big, epic, cool finale would get him the win, and it technically does, but based on the ending saying Luigi actually won, which is a nice play on the expectations. Good short. Episode 126, A Super Mario 64 Fairy Tale, Part 3. Mario and the Wizard continue their journey to the Beast's lair. Here we see actual interactions with Mario, Wizard, and the Beast, which is neat. We even get a cool little suspenseful ending, too. Too bad that the pacing throughout most of this episode is a slog. It feels like we're going in circles for the first half, where the protagonists think they found something, but they didn't. They find a guy in his magical portal house that can transport them anywhere, but Mario goes somewhere that's not the lair. They travel a bit to the lair, only to find out it is Toad's fake castle thing. They magically show up at Lava Valley, where the wizard knows that the Beast lives there, and yet we had to watch all of those pointless scenes earlier. I understand it's meant to be a joke, but this is a good portion of the episode where there seems to be no progress made on the objective. If the goal was to show how hard this adventure is, it didn't do the best job at showing it. It picks up towards the latter half and actually has a good ending, but even then, we get whatever immersion the episode gives us taken away when we switch to Mario butting into SMG4's story time at a pretty tense moment in the miniseries. It's not like this is a super serious part of the story, but why does Mario have to do that annoying thing where he goes, "Here's the version of the story that's awesome and cool. I beat up the bad guys. So epic. Right now." I'm giving this a scum 64, but only a light one. Again, nice ending to the story part of this episode. There's just a lot of other stuff that doesn't make for the best viewing experience. Episode 127, Sob Story, Tale of a Bob-omb. A young Bob-omb, escaped and attached to King Bob-omb, lives his life as Mario has other plans. Really weird one here. On one hand, I'm not sure about how effective this serious tone is with such a comparatively silly medium. It also just feels weird having this episode basically labeled as, "This is a sad story." I know it's a tonal shift from the normal videos, it still just feels strange. That being said, it does a decent job at telling this serious story. I like the very end where it shows the world go back to normal after Mario kills the Bob-omb. This feels like an earlier episode with how Mario is portrayed. Not a whole lot of SMG4 aspects here. It has mostly Mario 64-esque characters and plot points. Maybe something could have been done with the self-destructing aspect of Bob-ombs, and maybe it could have felt a bit more normal with the medium, but I'll still count this meh as one on the better side. Episode 128, The Mystery of the Missing Blue and White. SMG4 gets kidnapped by SMG3 and another mysterious man. More SMG3 action for this episode, which I enjoy. However, he feels out of character with why he wants to save SMG4. Maybe part of that is that he wants full control over how he deals with SMG4, and maybe it's more what was said in the episode where he feels like his time is being wasted. Other than that, though, I like this episode. Despite the slightly uncharacteristic actions of SMG3, it fleshes out the rivalry between him and 4 a bit. SMG3 is a big evil guy who has seemingly graduated from just a doppelganger into a villain, yet still interacts with his rival a lot. Other than that, my favorite parts are the Delfino Plaza scenes. The jokes about the lookalikes and the posters are nice. Episode 129, Castle Creepers. Steve visits the castle, but unknowingly leaves the portal open for others to follow him. This is a really cool episode. Where Minecraft crossover episodes of the past have been the Mario characters in Minecraft, this is the other way around. What I really like is how each mob's gimmick is used to frighten the main characters. The creeper sneaking around, the spider climbing on the walls, the Enderman stealing Mario's spaghetti. It's cool seeing these quirks used to their advantage. Obviously a good episode. It can't be on the short side, but that's fine. The little suspense that comes with the reveals and the more funny, light-hearted shenanigans are more than enough. Episode 130, A Super Mario 64 Fairy Tale Finale. Mario and the Wizard have to defeat the new giant beast and save Glowshire. I like the idea of having the last episode be saved for the fight between our protagonist and the beast. This mini-arc has been building up to this big fight, and the payoff? It's decent. The first half's tone of near hopelessness is nice. The fight scenes leave a bit to be desired as they don't have a lot of tension. It's kind of creative having a dance-off, but I don't think it quite works as a climax. Some of the gags here are good, others kinda stupid, but whatever. Not a bad ending to this miniseries. Episode 131, Hotel Mario, Mario burns down the castle trying to bake spaghetti, but fear not, he's allowed everyone to live in his house instead. This is another episode I consider a classic. First of all, it's pretty funny. We have some callbacks to earlier episodes like 0% and the spaghetti tutorial. Mario's antics, while not necessarily unique, have a way of annoying everyone differently. If there's one flaw, it's the climax. It does that thing where characters change their mind off screen and, for the most part, unprompted. The plotline of Mario getting kicked out of his own house and having to sneak back in felt like it could have been something, but immediately upon entering his home, Peach starts talking about how he shouldn't have been kicked out. I want to see the process here. I'm a little tired of these characters having a change of heart seemingly out of nowhere. Outside of that, though, this is still a very memorable episode. Episode 132. Mario Swag. Mario Goes Streaking. Nice little short here. While a lot of the jokes are kinda dated and immature, it's not, like, bad. There's some nice vibes here, though most of that is the music choice. Not much else to say, so let's just move on. Episode 133. Spaghetti Law. Spaghetti is banned, and Mario tries to find a way to cope. Let me just start off by saying this episode has a wonderful little cold open. This is the first time it's been used, at least in an interesting way. The episode itself is pretty funny. Mario and SMG4 get into their usual stupid yet silly problems. It feels reminiscent of 0%, just without the really satisfying ending and the controversy. I thought there was an inconsistency with the plan on my first watch until I realized that Mario asked SMG4 if he has a better plan, which he had one. The plan they actually carried out. All in all, a good episode and a really fun watch. Episode 134. YouTube Mario. Mario tries to prove he can be a successful YouTuber like SMG4. Normally, when a series starts reusing plots, it's not the best sign, but when those plots were kind of half-assed the first go-around, it's more understandable. Example, this episode. It's very similar to Bloopception, with Mario trying to make it in SMG4's area of work. Unlike that episode, though, here it's actually kinda funny. We get more of Mario's video ideas, and my personal favorite is him asking for money in his second ever video. And these creations from Mario are actually videos. On YouTube. The website. Just a nice little detail there. Good episode. I like seeing older plots that get their due justice with better pacing, storytelling, and jokes. Episode 135. 101 Ways for Mario to Die the Right Way. To celebrate 50,000 subs, SMG4 shows the many ways in which Mario can die. We get about 7 straight minutes of jokes, and while that's a lot, there's bound to be a few that stick the landing. No real story or plot, just rapid-fire gags. It does turn into a bit of a clip show towards the end, but that's okay. Thinking of 100 original ways for Mario to die without it seeming overly contrived or serious is tough. Still an enjoyable watch, and still a good episode. Episode 136. A Trip to Teletubbyland. Something's up with the castle's plumbing, but when Mario goes to check, he gets transported to a different world. Wow, does this take me back to my middle school days. It was one of my favorite episodes back then, and it still is. This is such a funny episode. It tries to give a background to one of the more minor characters in the series to this point, and it does a good job. The concept of character from an educational show is actually evil and violent has a reputation of being very immature, and while yes, SMG4 leans into that not super original idea, it doesn't hurt this episode. For one, Teletubbies are just fucking creepy, so there's an element of empathy with Mario and the other characters who don't like them. If you saw one of those 7-foot-tall humanoid creatures in real life, you wouldn't want anything to do with them. 2, the jokes themselves are actually really funny. The scene where the quote happens has some nice timing to the delivery, and so do the jokes about Mario trying to hug the other Teletubby or Mario getting chased around. Lastly, Teletubbies, as a character outside of SMG4, don't have a lot of traits. Think about it, what are the personalities of Poe and Tinky Winky? Can you remember anything about Lala's interactions with the others? No, you can't, so there's not much of a character to bastardize here. If Mario was in Bikini Bottom and SpongeBob and Patrick were hunting him down, that wouldn't work as well because those two are for sure 100% established to not be the type of people to kill for fun. With the Tubbies, they're sort of a blank slate of a character, and considering how weird they are, it feels more natural to have them be this way. Not to mention how Teletubbies are already known as evil in SMG4 from previous videos, so this is more like a backstory. This is where these strange creatures come from in this universe. It does more to establish the Teletubbies as psychotic, and it does it in a funny way. It's crazy, unhinged fun all throughout. Episode 137, R64, Mario Goes Shopping. Mario goes shopping for Peach. So, R64. I wouldn't call it a miniseries, more so just a side thing. No overarching story, the only themes are pure chaos. They're actually much more crazy than I remember, and that could be good or bad, depending on who you ask. I like the quick delivery of the jokes here. The supermarket scene was nice, it gave me some 0% vibes, and some of the running jokes are good too. The parents scolding their child about playing in the street, the log, they're pretty funny. Good episode here, and a good intro to this new style of video. Episode 138, Babamash. Mario accidentally eats a Babam with his spaghetti, and only has 24 hours left to live. The idea here is interesting, albeit not the most original. My main problem is this being a short. There's not enough time for me to get super invested in this story. Mario eats the Babam, he finds out he's gonna die, he tries to get it out, he talks to a couple of his friends, and that's about it. 4.5 minutes is just not enough time to tell a story of impending doom. But even discounting the runtime, there's zero tension in this story. SMG4 references the cloning process and how expensive it is, which kind of ruins the whole thing. I know this is SMG4, and I knew coming into this that Mario was going to be a-okay come the next episode, but I expect some kind of suspension of disbelief. If the episode itself is referencing Mario's perceived invincibility, all the tension is gone. Although it's not like there was a lot to begin with. There's some funny scenes, sure, but not enough to make up for some botched writing and wasted potential. It's a scum 64. Yeah, it's a short, so it's not terrible, but you can do a lot better with 4 minutes and change. Episode 139, Free Lunch for Mario. Mario eats lunch dropped in nuclear waste, where he then kinda goes crazy. We have a transformation episode now, which is nice to see. It's not super funny, but I like seeing Mario actually be unhinged. We've seen something like this in 99.5% Crazy, but this episode actually has a physical transformation. Not sure why Dr. Mario has to be the one throwing the tainted lunch away, though, as later on he also diagnoses regular Mario. You would think he would know that it was his lunch that Mario ate, unless he's trying to cover up for it or something. I don't know. It's a weird plot hole, but nothing too serious. Good episode. My favorite part here is the fact that everyone seems to have lunch on this particular day in the Mushroom Kingdom. The doctor, the wizard, and you can probably include the guy Mario steps on. Weird little quirk. Episode 140, the totally accurate documentary of Mario. SMG4 narrates a documentary of how Mario came to be. Yay, another origin story for Mario. And by yay, I mean, oh no. I don't know what it is about Mario origin stories that trip him up, but this episode is also a scum 64. It isn't that funny to begin with. The jokes about his parents are predictable, and the Nintendo part is kinda bland. The voiceover is also not that funny. That's where most of the jokes are supposed to be, and while it's cool to hear Luke talk for the first time, the delivery feels less like narration and more just talking about the events of the episode, if that makes any sense. I like the idea here, it's just the execution was off. Episode 141, Super Mario 64, the movie trailer. A trailer for the Super Mario 64 movie. Wow, we are getting a lot of short episodes right now. As for this one, it's good. The jokes are nice, there's some cool editing here. It's a decent short. Not a whole lot to it, as it's not meant to be its own story, but still, not bad. Episode 142, The Wacky Wario Bros, Wario's Treasure Hunting Time. Wario and Waluigi go on a treasure hunt. Okay, this is a pretty funny episode. I like the antics between Wario and Waluigi. I wouldn't call their interactions with each other a conflict. It's more so just the duo being the duo and giving each other a hard time. DK and the Chomp are also nice touches. Not quite antagonists, just obstacles. Good episode here, and I'd like to see more from this series. Episode 143, Seminar 5. It's Seminar 5. Why do we have so many seminars this season? This isn't even the last one of 2013. Anyways, there's some nice gags in this episode, especially after around the 2-minute mark. I really like the beginning and ending, though. It's cool to see a little story play out in a seminar. Good, but not that good, because I'm kinda getting sick of seeing all these compilations. Episode 144, Super Happy Magical Fun Island. Mario and friends travel to an island getaway, but things go awry in a spaghetti-inspired rampage on the plane. Enjoyable episode here. For starters, it's pretty funny, both with the jokes and the climax of the whole thing. There's some more uncomfortable gags in the secret lair, but it's over quickly and we don't really see them outside of the scene. The plane, some of the parts exploring the island, they're silly and I like them. If there's one issue I have, it would be that the whole island is secretly evil plotline doesn't quite work. We get 2 scenes of the characters exploring the island as a regular island and not trying to escape. 3 if you include everybody landing at the beach. Despite that, however, this episode is still a fun one to watch. Episode 145, Mind Swap. Mario and Steve accidentally swap bodies. Ooh, more Minecraft. We get plenty of good jokes in the first, 3/4 of the episode. I personally really like the idea of having a body swap episode, but have it not quite be a body swap episode. Now, the last quarter of the episode is pretty dumb. It's a non-ending, the flying aspect comes out of nowhere, and it's just not that funny to me. Thankfully, the rest of the episode is good enough that the ending doesn't drag it down. Mario trying to adjust to his new body by itself outweighs the bad parts. Episode 146, Idiot Karts 101. Mario goes to kart driving school. R64 is proving to be one of the best miniseries with what we've covered so far. This episode is great. It's hilarious, with every main Mario character getting their own segment, and each one is full of nice jokes. Bowser's tiny cart, Wario just launching into space on 2 separate occasions, Toad freaking out over the mushrooms, and Luigi with his interactions with the, power-ups. But even though his time on screen is short and could be fleshed out more, Waluigi is still the high point of a truly amazing episode. Plus, some nice Easter eggs. MCG makes a cameo as the instructor, and we get our first taste of Toast Guy. For sure, one of the best watches this season. Episode 147, War of the Fat Italians, 2013. SMG4 and Mario get into an argument after a bathtub sliding incident, and proceed to challenge each other. This year's War of the Fat Italians installment has one big improvement, the climax. We don't get the same trope of, oh, the 2 are actually really good friends and they have to save each other. It's just one big fight. Another upside to this is that the whole episode is short and to the point. I really like all the individual challenges. Something that was really neat is having Mario's solution at the end tie into the introduction. Good episode, and probably the best War of the Fat Italians yet. Episode 148, Birthday Freakout. Mario ruins Enzo's birthday party, so Enzo wants him dead. Funny episode here. I love the 2 evil characters and their different roles. SMG3 fucking up the assassination attempts, and Enzo just getting crazier and crazier as the story progresses. I do think that the series is trying to make SMG3 seem like a more reasonable villain at this point, which is interesting, but at a certain point, you start to question why he's the main bad guy to begin with, if Enzo is both more effective and more motivated than he is. Well, whatever they want SMG3 to be, it doesn't take away from a solid episode. The captive birthday party was a cool idea, even if it's pretty short-lived. Episode 149, Super Mario 64, Halloween 2013, Luigi's Mansion. Mario gets lost in the basement, so Luigi has to find him. What the fuck? What the hell did I just watch? I know it's supposed to be a random trial type episode, but holy shit, this just jumps from one segment to another to another. And these trials are supposed to be, trials. Challenging. How do you expect me to think Luigi's in danger when random characters burst in and do the task for him? But all of a sudden, Luigi gets the superpowers and takes out all the zombies for the climax, where we've never seen him so much as fight an enemy this episode. And this isn't like Seminar, where the random skits and segments are part of the format. No, the episode is trying to tell a story, and it's doing so through the disconnected bits. They're not even that funny. Luigi gets teleported to one room, presented with the obstacle, and then something crazy happens and Luigi is allowed to advance. It gets pretty boring after a bit. This episode is an easy Scum 64. Rarely have I felt this discombobulated after watching an SMG4 episode, but hey, there's a first for everything. Episode 150, The Mario Parable. Mario gets into a fight with the narrator. This is supposed to be a take on the Stanley Parable game, a more experimental game that's more an exploration of a person's choice rather than a video game. There's elements of those themes here, but for the most part, this episode deals with the aesthetic of having a narrator interact with the main character. With that being said, this is a good episode. Not a whole lot of good jokes, but the concept and the situations Mario finds himself in are interesting enough to keep things afloat. Yeah, the narrator isn't exactly making it with that rap, but whatever. It's balanced out by the ending of the Mario plotline. Funny little way of breaking the fourth wall that doesn't feel forced. Episode 151, Mushroom Wars, That Space Series, Part 1. Part 1 of an SMG4 take on Star Wars. Pretty funny episode here, and it's a decent adaptation of the original Star Wars story. The character substitutions kinda fit, although I don't know why Toad has to be the villain here. Sure, it's unique, but we already have established villains. It seems he was chosen just because it would be funny to have the villain be tiny. While I'm sure there will be some funny jokes about his size, that's not a strong enough reason to have him as the villain. At least in my view. But I like this episode. My favorite part would be the fight scene towards the end in SMG4, Hobo One Kanobo, saving the day at the end. It probably wasn't intentional, but the crowd of Teletubbies just collapsing all at the same time when Kanobo throws the lightsaber is amusing. I also liked the tourists on the ship. Not a big gag, but it's good. Episode 152, R64, The Elite Police. Mario decides to join the police. Another R64, another pretty funny episode, and another good episode. It's funny seeing an almost backstory on these weird tertiary characters. It's fascinating to see Mario chase an even higher status than the one he already enjoys. He's an idiot, sure, yet he's still pretty well off in plenty of the episodes we've seen. I also loved a lot of the training video too. Just like the other installments in R64, this has so many jokes you're bound to enjoy a few. Episode 153, Mushroom Wars, That Space Series, Part 2. Mario and Hobo find the pilot Han Yolo and try to fly to the Ouija star. I think this episode is a step down from Part 1, but still good. The club scene fell out of place, for starters. I do really like the Vader scenes, though, as since it's a Toad scene, he steals the show when he's on. I also like the gang trying to get away from the rogue troop angry about the burrito. The setting is nice, and how SMG4 handles the issue is entertaining. One issue, though, the gang didn't plan on going to the princess's home planet, they were going to the Ouija star. This is supposed to be a big suspenseful moment to leave the episode on, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Whatever. Most of the rest of this installment is fine. Episode 154, A Fungus Among Us. Toad starts an army, and when they take over the castle and capture his friends, Mario and Bowser have to fight back. Believe it or not, the sneak into the castle plot is back. I thought we lost them forever, but no worries. This episode probably has the best execution out of all the Sneaky Castle episodes. For starters, it's a quick intro. Toad is fed up with the humans, and he's been planning this takeover for a while. They're very effective, but it's also funny how they do it. Mario actually fails both times in the episode, which separates it from the pack. Yeah, the stealth method is the same between both, and the fake caps seem to tear off whenever it's convenient, but still, our main character gets caught. Speaking of our main character, it's nice seeing Mario and Bowser work together. It's not really a protagonist and villain dynamic anymore. It's more so just two characters who don't have a ton of one-on-one interactions teaming up. On the other side, Toad is just as entertaining as ever, and especially when he's the clear-cut villain of the story. His motives make sense. He's been stepped on and annoyed throughout most of this series, so it makes sense for him to actually get payback. Plus, it's just entertaining to see all the other Toads take over the castle, even if they're the same model. Great episode. Not even the dumb ending can take that away. Episode 155, Mushroom Wars Part 3, The Down of the Ouija Star. Mario and Hobo attempt to destroy the Ouija Star. So this is supposed to be the finale of this little arc, and it kinda falls flat. I do enjoy the setting and all the conflict scenes, but other than that, it's just not all that interesting of an episode. The Force isn't addressed at all in the series, outside of the scenes where SMG4 wants to teach Mario the Force, and the scene where Mario tries to use the Force, even though it's just him ground pounding. It's a very underwhelming conclusion to this multi-part story. I'm calling this one a meh. I will give it credit for having some good jokes. The polite stormtroopers were quite amusing, but I don't think it's good enough to make up for the lack of pop in this episode. Episode 156, The 12 Idiots of Christmas, an SMG4 Christmas-themed musical. I'll keep this one brief. Scum64. I like the idea here, it's cute. The visuals are also okay, but the singing, not the best. It changes from being so bad it's funny to just being bad after a couple minutes. I'm not gonna go too hard on this, but yeah, not my favorite. Episode 157, Seminar 6. Seminar, but New Year themed. Kinda. Holy shit, another Seminar. This one is okay, some of the jokes felt really dated, but also had some good ones, like Luigi on the roller coaster and Steve. Call Me Ouija is also charming, if anything. Nah, not a bad end to this season. And that was every episode of SMG4 Season 3 reviewed. My god, that was a lot of SMG4. Let's look at some of the numbers. All in all, this season had 44 good episodes, 7 meh, and 8 Scum64. Those meh episodes were War of the Fat Italians 2012, President Toad Washington, Like a Bowser, The Swap, Tale of a Bomb, Mushroom Wars Part 3, and Seminar 6. The Scum64 episodes were Sup Bro, Christmas Thing 2012, The Glitch, A Super Mario 64 Fairy Tale Part 3, Bomb Ash, The Totally Accurate Documentary of Mario, Super Mario 64 Halloween 2013 Luigi's Mansion, and The 12 Idiots of Christmas. So what made this season interesting? Well, a few things. 1. Episodes are much shorter in this season. Here's a fun tidbit about the length of episodes. Out of the 58 of them in this season, only 18 are about 10 or more minutes long. Compare that to 39 out of 50 for Season 2. 8 minutes is about the point where I notice an episode is shorter than usual, and in this season, 29 out of the 58 were 8 or fewer minutes long. That's half of the season. In Season 2, there were only 6 such episodes. Where things really get interesting, though, is where you look at episodes that are 6 or more minutes shorter. Out of the 29 kinda short Season 3 episodes, 14 could comfortably fit into an average game of Salmon Run, so about a quarter of the season. Meanwhile, out of Season 2's 6 shorter episodes, 5 are what I would consider to be short. What could this mean? Well, it seems during this season, SMG4 stopped worrying about making super long stories. Those 18 episodes over 10 minutes? Only 4 are what I would consider long, clocking in at 12 minutes or longer. Whereas 32 out of the 39 in Season 2 fit into that criteria. There's even 8 that are 14 and a half or longer. In Season 3, 9 out of the 18 10-minute episodes, and 3 out of the 4 12-minute episodes are in the first, 18 of this season, aka the episodes that are closest to Season 2. If Season 1's quirk was introducing this world to the SMG4 storytelling, Season 2's was really long, drawn-out episodes. Just because you can make one of these episodes 14 minutes long doesn't mean you have to. I'll cover this in a bit after these notes and once we get the other season charts in here, but this season had comparatively less Met episodes than last season, and I think it has something to do with the length of the episodes. For 2, there were a lot of specials this season. Maybe it's because Luke wanted to experiment more, maybe it's due to the rapid growth of the channel during this time, and maybe we're getting so many specials because this season spans 2 calendar years, but we got a lot of non-standard episodes. Seminar, Fat Italians, Holiday Specials, a miniseries. 24 episodes could be considered a special, which includes 10 miniseries, 5 seminars, 2 Fat Italians, 2 Halloween specials, 2 Christmas specials, a New Year special, the spaghetti tutorial for 30k, and 101 ways for 50k. Pretty interesting, and almost amazing seeing the channel growth over just this 1 year. And 3, more voice clips. Not a lot to say about this one, it's self-explanatory. Less plain text all throughout episodes, more voice clips. Partially for story advancement, but it's mostly for jokes. We even saw at the beginning of R64, a series that has way more voice clips than text conversations. It's not a bad or good change, it's just that, a change. Now, let's look at what this season has to offer compared to all the others. We have the same proportion of Scum 64 episodes as always, hovering around an 1/8 of all episodes. Now Season 1 had about a 1/6 of their episodes be met, and that rose to nearly a 1/4 in Season 2. Now that's down to an 1/8 as well. The biggest improvement is in the good episodes. About 3/4 of this season was good, the most so far. Like I said before, I think the shift to shorter episodes is a reason for that. Some of the stories told did not need 14 or more minutes to play out. Season 2, and to an extent some episodes in Season 1, can have a lot of scenes that feel pointless and disconnected. A big example of an episode being too long is Desert Head. That episode was 14 minutes long, but only the first 7 minutes felt right. It would have been a perfectly fine episode if it was kept to that plotline, but I can only assume that Luke wanted an episode that was longer, decided to throw in the game show, and the episode suffered. It probably wouldn't have been a Scum 64 if it was made just a year and some change later. Again, sometimes less is more when it comes to storytelling, and episode length doesn't always equal quality. Top and bottom 5s. I'm starting with the bottom 5 for today. These aren't final, so my opinion might change on the ranking in the future. Number 5, Babamash. SMG4 kind of saying, yeah, this problem isn't that much of a problem, really killed this episode, but there's not a lot of Scum 64s, so someone had to be number 5. Number 4, Sup Bro. It does the you have to believe me story, which isn't bad in and of itself, but if you're gonna try to end it in a satisfying way, maybe don't do it off screen. Number 3, the totally accurate documentary of Mario. Not that funny of an episode, and we have already seen a Mario origin story done poorly. This doesn't help matters. Number 2, The Glitch. Like I said before, Crystal Funhouse, but without a lot of the funhouse, and most of the episode is the characters standing around. And number 1, the Super Mario 64 Halloween Special 2013, Luigi's Mansion. It's not that funny, the tension isn't real, and the ending makes no sense. In the worst way possible, this episode is a clusterfuck. On to the top 5. Number 5, Two Evil Friends. It's entertaining to watch the two villains try to do evil stuff. Number 4, How to Make Spaghetti. An experimental format leads to a really interesting, yet still enjoyable episode. Number 3, A Fungus Among Us. does the earlier sneak into the castle plots right by having our hero mess up, and is still really funny. Number 2, A Trip to Tubbyland. Wild, crazy, hilarious, and an interesting tale on where these wonderfully evil creatures originate. And number 1, Idiot Carts 101. There isn't a single bad aspect of this entire episode. Non-stop jokes and a cool kind of story at the racetrack. Lastly, let's talk about the season as a whole. It's safe to assume that this is a good season. Not only do we have a proportionally higher number of good episodes, lots of the good episodes are pretty good. There's noticeably more episodes this time around, but it's actually a shorter watch than previous seasons. The total runtime clocks in at just under 8 hours, which is close to Season 1, but nearly an hour and a half shorter than 2. And the average episode is only 8 minutes compared to 1's 10 and 2's 11. It's just more concise than the other 2 seasons, and more memorable at that. I feel we are truly starting to see more modern SMG4 aspects take hold here. Lots of Gmod, lots of voice clips, and episodes that don't outlast the clock of an NBA quarter. If you're more used to some of SMG4's more recent content and want to watch some older stuff, this might be the season for you. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching this review. If you enjoyed this, I have 2 others right here. Also feel free to subscribe to make sure you don't miss future reviews and other stuff. This is Wumble Lombardi, signing off.